Sometimes it's necessary to convert data between the two main data models, vector and raster. Here I'll convert the population-based heat map to a vector dataset. Having the data in the vector data model allows for more precise positioning, for easier area calculations, and for different cartographic options. For example, with a vector polygon dataset, you have control over the border styling and the fill, whereas with a raster, you really just have control over the color of the pixel. I'll begin by restyling the town population density raster. So I'm going to double click on the layer to open up layer properties, go to the style tab, and for the render type, I'm going to choose single band pseudo color. I'm going to choose a color ramp of yellow, orange, red. I'm going to change the load min max values to min max and the accuracy to actual. I'll click load. And finally, I'll click classify. And I'll click OK. So this generates a much more pleasing rendering, and it's very useful for a visual interpretation of the population centers. However, if I wanted to have an actual layer of these population centers, the heat map still needs to be further processed. So now I'll identify the highest population centers. And to do that, I need to decide on a threshold value that will constitute the population centers. And there's a couple ways I could go about that. I could look at the values from the layer classification here and choose just the cutoff at the highest classification. I could go into the layer properties and go to the histogram tab and explore the histogram to try to determine a threshold value for that. For this exercise, I'm going to choose a threshold value of 900. To accomplish this, I can use the raster calculator that we used in the last lab. I'll go to raster, raster calculator. The available rasters loaded in my map are shown in the upper left-hand box. I have my operators and my raster calculator expression window. So I'm going to double click on the town population density layer to place it in the raster calculator expression window. Use the greater than operator, and I'll place my cursor down here and type in my threshold value of 900. This will produce an output layer where all pixels greater than 900 will end up with a value of 1, and the remaining pixels will have a value of 0. So it's another way of doing a reclassification. I'm going to click the ellipsis button to save this out. Choose my Lab 8 data, my data folder, and I'll call this population centers. And I'll make it a GeoTIFF. So I'm going to change the output format to GeoTIFF. That's the last setting I had to make, so I'll click OK. I'll turn off the town population layer, and now I have a layer which is raster, which identifies those 4 population centers. But now I'm going to convert this to a vector layer. To accomplish this, I'll go to the raster menu, to conversion, to polygonize, raster to vector. My input file is going to be the population centers raster. I'll click the select button to name my output. And I'll call it population centers.shape. So this will be a shape file. I'm going to check the field name box. This will put the digital number value, 0 or 1, 1 for population center, 0 for not, in a field called DN for digital number in the resulting shapefile. And notice this text down here in the bottom window. This tool is a Goodle tool, and it's using Goodle Polygonize, and this is the command line syntax for the tool that we're running. I don't need to do anything with that. It's just additional information. If you ever wanted to work in the command line mode, this would be the command line that you'd enter for this particular tool that we're running. I'll go ahead and click OK. Takes a second to process. I get the processing complete. Click OK and close. It's placed my population center raster in the middle of my table of contents, so I'm going to drag this above the raster layer. And you'll see the output constitutes all the pixels in the raster. So I want to eliminate the non-population center polygons from this layer. And to do this, I'll put the layer into edit mode, select those polygons with a value of 0, and delete them. So I'm going to right-click on this layer and choose Toggle Editing. And then I'm going to right-click on it again and open up the attribute table. And you can see that there are 4 records with the value of 1. These are the 4 population center areas, and then the rest of the remaining polygon has a value of 0. Since it is just a single record that I want to delete, I could just select it and delete it, but I'm going to show you how to do this with the select features by using an expression button. So this is the button right up here. I'm going to expand the fields and values. There's my one attribute column, DN for digital number. I'm going to double click that to place it in my expression window. I'm going to use the equals operator, so I'm going to expand operators, double click on the equals operator, and then I'm just going to enter a 0. So this will select all the records where the digital number column equals 0. I'll click select, click close. Now that that has selected my polygon that I want to delete, I can click this delete selected features button to eliminate that. I can toggle off the editing and say yes, I want to save my edits, close my attribute table, and now my layer consists of just the population centers. Now that the data are in a polygon form, it's straightforward to calculate their acreage. QGIS calculates areas in the units of the coordinate reference system. Therefore, the layer needs to be in a Cartesian coordinate system with units of feet or meters. Currently, this layer is in a geographic coordinate system with values of decimal degrees. And to show you that, I can double click on the layer to open up layer properties, go to the general tab, and you'll see that it's in WGS. So what I need to do now is save the layer to a new coordinate reference system. Then I can calculate the square meters of the polygons and convert those to acres or square miles, whatever unit I wish to use. So I'm going to right click on this layer and choose Save As. I'm going to browse. I'm going to call this Population Centers Albers. I'm going to click Browse for the CRS, and I'm going to just search for the EPSG code for the Albers coordinate system that I want to use. It's 3083, so I'll just type in 3083 into the filter, and here's my Texas-centric Albers equal area coordinate system that I'm going to use. I'll click OK, click Add Save File to Map, and click OK. It didn't take too long to reproject that. Now I can turn off this original one, and I've got my population centers in Albers. As a final step, I'll open up the attribute table. I'm going to click the toggle editing mode. I'm going to click the add a new column button. I'm going to call my column acreage. And when creating a new column, you have to choose what type of column it is. In other words, what kind of data is that column going to hold? Text or numbers? And if it's numbers, what kind of numbers? Whole numbers or integers? So I'm going to click the drop down for type and choose decimal number real. I'm going to give this a width of 7, meaning it can hold 7 characters, and give it a precision of 1, meaning it can hold 1 decimal place. And I'll click OK, and it adds my field. And finally, I'm going to populate this with acreage values. I'm going to click the Field Calculator button to open up Field Calculator. I'm going to choose to update an existing field, and that field is acreage. Then I'm going to expand the geometry function list. Scroll down, and there's a function for area. So I'm going to double click on area, and if I just ran this like this, it would calculate the area in the units of my coordinate system, which is meters. So it would calculate the area in square meters. However, I want this to be in acres, so I'm going to use a conversion factor as part of my expression. So I'm going to multiply area times the conversion factor that would produce acres. So I'm going to put my cursor after area. I'm going to expand operators, scroll to the top, find that, choose the multiplication operator, and then I'm going to enter the number that is the conversion factor, 0.000247,105. Now I'll click OK, and you'll see my values are now populated. I have acreage figures for all 4 population centers. I can click the toggle off button and choose to save my edits. And now I have a layer of population centers, and I've calculated their acreage. In the next task, you'll learn how to do the conversion the other way. You'll go from the vector data model to the raster data model.